Welcome to the Religiously Offensive Podcast.
But instead of them thinking, oh, yeah, that'll be really good for our customers, they probably would just like it for themselves. Like, oh, yeah, I can get it.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Or, like, instead of paying them a lease, you just give them free life water.
Because, I mean, the tattoo artist, and every tattoo artist I've been at, always has some type of energy drink with them.
Mm-hmm.
So if you put some energy drinks in there,
Yeah.
you're like,
It's weird. Every time I've gotten a tattoo, not every time, I
buy
would
a
say,
vending machine with me.
Shit.
I would say 90% of the time, though, when I go in there, I get an energy drink for some reason. It's stupid because it just makes my senses more heightened and it hurts more. Like, I don't know why I do it.
You know, it'd be dope for a vending machine if you did obviously like the traditional snacks, but then if you did one that was more like electronics in certain areas or certain buildings.
Well, at the airport, they have like those Lego set vending machines.
But like, I don't know if this is a stupid idea. I was just thinking about this, but you could have like electronics. So you have like a name brand set of like Beats or like the Beats Pro or even like AirPods, right?
Yeah.
And then like you have those.
That would make me nervous.
Normal like
I'd be nervous about people breaking into it.
$200. Yeah,
So-
I guess
so
that would
that-
have to be in specific like
Yeah.
buildings.
Yeah.
But the thing, like with that, I mean, that's like, I think you're thinking of like the end goal. The beginning, you got to start out with
Hear me
snacks.
out. Hear me out, though. Hear me out. Those are there to just wet the whistle and get the people's attention. And then right next to AirPods, we have like the frickin' $30 Chinese knockoff Pulsar buds, whatever you want to call them, that like are literally like $40. And they look the exact same.
Yeah.
No, dude, I'm not
And
like
then you
walking around
use-
the mall and be
That's
like,
where you make your money.
oh, there's,
Yeah,
I
so
need some AirPods or I need some headphones. Let me go to
Because you
that
think
vending
about,
machine.
you can't really mark up AirPods
That's what I'm
because
saying.
people know how
Like,
much they cost.
You
Like
just
you could maybe
drive the
charge
contrast.
because you could get them for sale now, like 170 something. But like if you in the vending machine, you could charge, I guess, 250. But that wouldn't be.
So what about
I've
do you
been
guys?
using-
Do you see? Have you? Well, I guess you haven't seen them because you don't go to women's bathrooms. But you know how they have like those like small like little almost vending machines like on, the,
on the
wall
wall, you, like-
for like tampons and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
Like
condoms
even
and
like
stuff.
chapstick and stuff.
Condoms.
Sometimes that's what I'm thinking. Like what if you could put them in like dorms at colleges or like
Well, no, I'm saying they have condom dispensers in guys' bathrooms.
yeah, but like think of like a vending machine like in a big like dorm like apartment building or something.
Yeah, you put sex.
I saw a
toys in there.
story.
I don't know about sex.
I
toys,
don't know
maybe
what
condoms.
college.
Promote
there's a-
safety.
Yeah, I don't know if you really want to promote like too crazy on a college campus. This is like, yeah,
They're doing it. You
There's
can't.
there's a college somewhere.
guess.
I'll figure out which one. I saw a news story on it, but they have a vending machine for Plan B, and it's subsidized through like the government, and you can just go roll and just like get your Plan B from a vending machine.
We should
right
do
on.
some research and see like different types of vending machines.
There are
And it
probably,
was
there are
pretty
probably some
taboo,
girls that
obviously.
take Plan B like vitamins every day. I'm sure there's
Probably not good.
Yeah,
I doubt that's good for your body.
But I bet they're out there. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Gotta be.
There's all kinds of people out there.
Well, I mean, honestly, it is outrageous, but at least it's like somewhat responsible.
Yeah, their Plan Bs.
You're
Plan A.
actively, yeah, when you're planning, I saw it's not appropriate, but something about when your Plan A is Plan B. Yeah, I don't know.
So, what do you mean it's not appropriate? We've covered a lot of things on here.
That's true. That's fair.
yeah.
So
Sometimes I just choose to block it out and act like we only talk about wholesome things. I'm just like,
That's not
we're
true.
fine.
Not true.
not true at all.
No, I don't care if. Yeah, there's probably certain people that I'm not.
Yeah. So I'm thinking about getting a video
Wouldn't enjoy
set
it
up
too much.
because we talked about investing in a video setup, but really it's like there probably aren't a lot of people that like physically watch the video
Yeah.
after a certain amount of time. But I think it's important for social and stuff. Posting like videos where we have like cuts of us
Right.
instead of just the shot.
Like trying to pull it.
Because
yeah.
Christina's done the zoom in thing, but it gets grainy and
Right,
it's a little
right.
awkward because we're all side profile. But I don't know. Thinking about it. But yeah, so back to helicopters. It'd be cool to buy one and do like a little. I was telling Nathan this: buy one, do a little touring company and then just like have pilots and it's kind of doing its thing, and then like just get to fly it whenever you want. It'd be so cool. You need to ride. You need to ride in one.
Are we talking about like the like itty bitty ones that fit like 2 people in the little bubble? Are we talking about like a legit?
Well, so those are Robinsons. Robinsons, they have the R22, which is a 2-person, right? Mm-hmm. That's what they do a lot of training in. They have an R44, which I think is a 4-seater, 4 or 5-seater, and then the R66, which is a turbine. But they all look like that stupid bubble. I hate the way they look. They look so stupid. Like they're just.
I mean, how are they supposed to look? It's a helicopter.
Well, look up a Bell 206.
Okay, you know your shit.
And then look up a Robinson R22. R44, because those look even more absurd.
You're saying the Bell 206 looks stupid, or you're saying
no? That's a normal looking helicopter.
Okay,
right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So look up a Robinson R44.
Wow, that looks pretty. How pretty is that?
It's so pretty.
Look at that sky.
Oh, I thought you meant the helicopter.
Oh well, yeah, it's pretty. Sure.
Sure.
Never looked at a helicopter and be like, dang, that's a pretty helicopter.
Look at that chassis.
What was the other one? Robinson? Sorry, Robson.
It's Robinson R44.
Yeah, those don't look cool. Those are cool. I mean, cool enough.
What do you mean?
Robinson?
Bells?
The Robinson?
The thing I like about the Robinson is I do like does the other one have just full glass in the front? Is it the same?
Well, most helicopters have high visibility. Yeah,
so this would be just to like fly people around and like show them things. Mm-hmm. It wouldn't necessarily be like transportation.
You could, and that's the crazy
charter
thing.
It.
People don't know, but the range is pretty good. Like, so a Bell 206 can go like 400 miles. So you could fly from here to Nassau, Bahamas.
Oh, say less.
Yeah. No, I mean, that'd be so sick.
Let's pop over to Nassau.
Let's pop over to Nassau.
How many hours does that take?
It'd probably take 3 or 4. Because it goes
a few videos on Netflix.
It goes like 120 miles an hour. 206 does.
Dude, that'd be so sick.
Helicopters don't really fly that fast.
But yeah, you could just be popping people down to like Miami.
Yeah, you could. You could do private charters. You could do a little Uber Black helicopter version.
I wonder what
that's wild.
Be
cool.
Imagine? That would be cool.
I mean, the Bell is definitely higher cost to operate because it's a turbine helicopter as opposed to the Robinson R44, which is a piston. It's like, so that's like a regular engine, like an engine that's like in your car. It's modified, but it's just like in your car. And the turbine engines are technically more reliable, but they're a lot more maintenance and upkeep. But they sound so sweet when they start up. Oh gosh!
How many times have you been on a helicopter?
Me? Mm-hmm. Probably like 10-ish, somewhere around there. Yeah, because I've done like the training flights. I've done a bunch of tours. I did some tours when I was younger. I took Lincoln. We did one in Dubai. I did another one here. Yeah, so I mean.
Oh, you guys did do one in Dubai? That's pretty cool.
Well, what was cool is they didn't have these silly Robinson helicopters. They had like the Airbus and like all the Bells and like, Jet Rangers and stuff, which was sweet. They had like legit helicopters.
That is sweet.
I just like it because it like the turbine engine sounds like a jet engine when you power it up, and so it just reminds me of things that are fast. And they're sweet. Yeah, I just love it. Yeah, I love it. Anyway, that's cool. I just wanted you guys to share my dream.
What's the damage on one of those things? How does that cost?
A used one?
Yeah, whatever.
You can find them for like $500,000 or $600,000. Wow,
just a $500,000.
Not much.
New the 50 shoot. What is it? 506? I don't know. 505 Jet Ranger X. I think those are like $2.5 million. They're expensive.
Crazy.
Yeah, that's wild.
The Robinsons, you can get a brand new R22, which is the 2-seater. You can get like for $400. You can find used ones for like $150.
Oh, the Robinson one?
$200,000. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Which I just don't like.
Is that one a little more bumpy?
Dude, when we did the training flight down in St. Cloud, it was all over the place. Like it was
just get blown around a lot,
hopping around. You kind of get used to it, but I was just like, makes me a little nervous. I mean,
I wouldn't love that.
And the thing is, like, you hear these wind baffles against the blades, and so it's like the blade, like, it's very loud. Like, you have headphones on, but it's like there'll be sometimes the wind would blow, and then you hear the like really loud, like you hear the rotors beating against the wind, just for a second, like while it's like you're just like, this is a little crazy. And then the guy, when I did the training flight, was sick because he had the doors off. So it was like a Jeep. Like, I'm just, you're just sitting there exposed, which is super cool, really.
Yeah, it's sick.
Yeah, the guy, he was pretty casual. I like that guy.
So what's the, in worst case scenario, what's the extra strategy there? Do they have like ejector seats if like you're going down?
Well, you can get chopped up. No, they don't have that.
You got nothing?
I mean, it depends on the type of emergency. If your tail rotor, something happens to your tail rotor, it's hard to recover from that. But I think you can with some manual input correction, like torque it and stuff like that. But if the rotor falls off completely,
like the main one,
you're screwed. Yeah, you're just gonna drop.
And there's no like air like parachutes, or you're just going down.
Yeah. I mean, helicopter crashes aren't that common,
right?
When you consider how many are flying, right?
Yeah.
But if the engine goes out, there's this thing called auto rotation that you can do. That actually I experienced the instructor, like, because you have to do it as part of your check ride when you get your private pilot license, and that's basically you have to like shut down. So you have to pull the throttle back. Yeah. And so the throttle is all the way up always. This is a little lesson on helicopters today. So the throttle is all the way up, like all the time. So it's always running at full. It's like you're never, you're almost never letting off the gas unless you're doing like specific maneuvers, right? Or something like practicing on engine failure or something like that. So what happens is the engine RPM has to stay at a certain point. And then the rotor blades are like, they're like attached to a clutch and then like gearing to where like they're at a certain RPM. The rotor blades have to stay at a specific RPM. Mm-hmm. So if the rotor blade RPM goes down below a certain point, you get this alarm that goes off, meaning that your engine or something isn't working right? Like your engine's, something's happening. And so immediately you have like 5 seconds to react or you're screwed. So what you have to do is drop the collective, which is like the thing that makes you go up and down, to where you flatten your blades out, and then you basically go into like a gradual, a little bit of a nosedive, point forward, so that basically you dropping keeps the blade spinning, almost like a plane coasting.
Okay.
So you can survive. So they call it an auto rotation. And a lot of times you do a powered recovery, but like in the military, they make them go all the way to the ground and practice this. So it's like you practice a loss of power, you go all the way down and kind of like, and then as you get almost to the ground, you kind of bump the collective a little bit to get like a little bit of a cushion or hover, and then you try to like set it down gently on the skids. But it's crazy, like just so you can survive an engine failure. But there are certain conditions that you can't survive.
Interesting.
Just like in a plane, I mean,
there
are certain things you can't survive in a plane. Like if your wing falls off, something happens to that, you're probably screwed.
Cool.
Cool. One of the craziest things though that I did learn is that the blades are always spinning at the same rate. It's not like they go faster for you to go higher. So the only thing that changes is the pitch. So like when you're sitting on the ground before the helicopter takes off, the blades are spinning as fast as they'll ever go. But they're flat, so you're not going anywhere. And it changes the pitch slightly so that you can get lift. And the higher the greater the pitch, the more lift you'll get. Yeah.
Because helicopters came after planes, correct? So you wonder how that technology co-evolved. I still miss the old what were they But
I wonder how long helicopters are really gonna. I mean, they may exist in just a different format with drones coming out. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's true. The drone thing is kind of taking over, and I mean, think about how much we don't even know. Like, how much the military has and does that we don't even know in terms of drone technology.
Well, they have those. I think they're called Ospreys, You seen those?
Are you talking about like the big?
They take off vertical.
Yeah,
and then they go like they're planes.
Well, that's what I was just gonna say. I missed the old, or the F-14 Tomcats. Remember those?
Yeah,
those were bad.
Those were the ones in Top Gun, right? The
I
original
thought they
Top
still
Gun.
took off the ramp.
Yeah, they do.
Because I thought the Tomcats were supposed to like lift up and then
That's a Harrier.
You sure?
Absolutely sure. F-14 Tomcats were the ones that they had on the aircraft carriers.
I could have sworn, because wasn't there like a cartoon about that plane? Like, it was called
Harrier.
Tomcats or something.
I mean, it could have been called that.
I might be thinking of something else.
But the F-14 Tomcat did not take off vertically. I promise you.
It had the wings that would have brought it up.
It had the wings that moved in and out.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
But
which one?
Harrier? Harrier, yeah.
I didn't even spell it. Harrier jet.
I don't know. Google will figure it out for you.
So that one was like,
yes, just like that.
balling. Do we still use those, or was that like just like too much?
I think Harriers have been retired. But there are other the jets now that take off vertically. I just don't know the names of them. I don't follow it.
You gotta get on this alien technology.
Dude, tell me about it. Where we manipulate gravity.
Yeah, it's like little tic tac video.
Yeah,
went from like what 70,000 feet to like 1 in a split second and just stopped.
I'm all about the tic tac. That's it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
For the love of God, if you do anything, President Biden, just release the alien stuff.
I know, right?
If you want to unite the world, just be like, they're here.
I don't know.
We're screwed unless we all band together. Like,
People
be
are
an
gonna lose their
alien
shit.
invasion at this point.
Yeah, but
to
what if
unite the human race?
What if some of the aliens are humans, though? That's gonna
you lie and say they're
that's
not.
That's gonna throw a wrench into stuff.
At this point, they manipulate and make up stuff to get us to think stuff anyway. So it's like, we might as well tell us we got an invasion coming.
Yeah, half the girls on Instagram are aliens, I'm sure. They look like aliens.
A lot of people think Elon Musk is an alien.
Yeah. I could get behind that.
That picture she saw.
You got a strange body. Yeah.
So I think
picture on the yacht.
Yeah, she showed me. She showed me where the hard drive was. Yeah. That's funny. I was thinking the other day, dude, so many, like, I'm starting to see more and more of these lip injections, and I hate it. I don't imagine how girls think that they look good.
Yeah, the hardest part with that is just, I mean, if I had like...
Was I talking to you about this yesterday?
No.
Or I was talking to somebody.
My personal opinion is I guess I don't care that much. And it's, from my understanding, I think there's like cheaper ways to do it that just look a little more fake. And then if you like actually spend more money, it can like, because I think most of the injections, don't you have to get them like every couple months? And then like they eventually fade out.
Yeah, but what's the purpose? Problem is, like, why do guys find that attractive?
Well, because I think generally, like, I mean, some people just have that like no upper lip situation going on, you know? Like, I mean, it's sad, but it's just reality.
Got no upper lip.
And if it's like, if that's something, like anyone, if there's something that you don't like about your body, you just hyper focus on it.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't really have
like for guys with their hair, right? So it's like if we start losing hair, it's like, is there something I can do to like save it? So most guys will.
But like, I think most people would acknowledge that like hair can be attractive, right? Like, so it can add to someone's attraction. But like lips, like, I don't know. I've never seen a guy. It's always like,
you're not like attracted to lips.
Well, it's always
big on lips.
It's always T and A and teeth. Like, I don't know.
T and A. Oh,
but I'm just like, you know what I mean?
What are you talking about?
I mean, there's the ones we all know and love, and then like people are like,
He said DNA.
Yeah, I was like, I prefer B&B.
Yeah, whatever.
I was processing.
But I'm just like, you know, I mean, I'm just sitting there thinking, you know what? I've never heard a guy be like, "Do you see the lips on her? Oh my gosh." Is that, you know, that's not like something guys talk about.
I guess in the
I have heard guys say, be like, she's got some nice lips.
I'm not going to say the acronym,
Yeah, but are they talking about?
acronym
Are they talking about her mouth lips though?
Yeah, of course they're talking about her mouth lips.
JJ.
That's so funny. I had to say it. Sorry. Shouldn't have gone there.
Technically, they do have surgery for both.
Justin's like, I've researched all of this.
Into some dark places and see some strange things.
So anyway, we should probably get into the subject matter.
Yeah.
Which is?
What we talked about the other day, Calvinism versus Arminianism. So really what this is about is predestination versus the idea of free will. Not versus, it's like we have free will, but if God knows everything we're going to do, then really you run that down all the way to the end, and it basically means that you were selected before you were born for salvation, and God chose people, and then the people he didn't choose are just screwed.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting concept, but the one thing is too, it's like, I forget who was it that when Eric was on here, Luke said something about, or Eric or Luke, one of those guys, or Eric, it was Eric. So if God's all powerful and all knowing, it's almost like one of those things where, you know how you ever heard people say like, can God make a rock so big that he can't lift it? You know what I mean? Like, it's just kind of one of those catch-22 kind of things. Can God, in his infinite, power and knowledge and whatever, can he choose to ignore the fact that he knows the outcome? Right? It's like, can he choose to be ignorant to it? And in that case, I guess the whole idea of predestination may not hold as much weight. You know what I mean? I don't know. Like, well, how do you feel about it?
Yeah, I think the hardest part is, biblical scholars and theologians much smarter than me that have devoted their lives to this thing fall on either end of this spectrum, right? So it's like, do we really have free will if he's already predestined us for certain things and works and calls and, whatever you want to call it? I'm just going to look up, because there's both sides just kind of refer to different like scripture, Bible verses that would kind of bolster their position. But again, even in that, it's funny because it's like the Bible's very clear that it talks about free will, and true love couldn't really be true love without the existence of free will. Yeah. Then there's other verses like, let me just pull up the verse real fast.
You do that. Yeah, because I wonder how Calvinism even got started, or was it some guy named Calvin?
In an attempt to properly discuss the subject, we did absolutely no research. We have no idea where any of this came from.
Didn't even know what we were talking about.
We know some people talk about this stuff sometimes.
We know people talk about it. No, it's fine, because it's really just our thoughts on the whole thing, because I think we've all heard about this idea before, right? So it's just, because I don't think anyone likes the idea of predestination. Right. I think that's just like, it takes your agency away.
So it looks like most of these verses that reference it. Okay, so another one, some of these are Jesus. Like in John, Jesus says, no one can come to me unless the Father who sent me draws him, and I will raise him up on the last day. And says, you did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you that you should go and bear fruit. This is a different verse from John, that you should go and bear fruit, and that your fruit should abide, so that whatever you ask the Father, Lord, the Father in my name, sorry, Jesus, he may give it to you. Yeah, sorry, that was butchered. But I guess they're coming from this whole perspective where, like, I think it's like humans like the idea that, like, I was made and chosen for this calling, right? Makes us feel more important, right? Strokes the ego a little bit.
Well, and humans wrote the Bible. So you think that kind of made it in there? You think it's more of a pride thing?
Well, I don't doubt that Jesus didn't say this stuff.
People want to feel special,
but it's
like
I
they
think
were
they like
selected.
the idea. Yeah. Because it's like one of the big prophecies that, like, I always, like, someone wrote it down for me, and then, like, people would always remind me of. It was like right before I was going to Bible college. Someone had, like, we were all praying or whatever at church one Sunday, and I'll never forget it. The dude just, like, hits, like, kind of raises the intensity and the volume, and then does like a, many have been called, but few have been chosen. I have chosen you, and I will go with you. Thus saith the Lord. One of those things, right? Now, it's not a conversation about the legitimacy of that or whatever. Not really relevant. But it's just like you put someone then that's in a very kind of, big life transition where they're trying to move in this direction, and then you then you tell that person that the Lord just told you to tell them that like many have been called, but few have been chosen, and I've chosen you. So then like you feel special. It's like, I'm the special boy. Like, it's just,
it's like the little aliens in the vending machine of Toy Story.
There's inevitably going to be a psychological like impact to that belief of like, I like predestination because it's like, I'm the special one. And for me to be special, that means like there can be a lot of called people, but I'm like the specially chosen one. So it's like, I don't know. It's just, it's a weird balance because like there is an element of ego, I think, where we like the idea of like, I like being chosen.
The fact that it opens the door to ego makes me feel like that verbiage was created by humans and not God. You know what I mean?
It's possible. But then humans also love the idea of free will because no one wants to be told what to do. So it's this weird combination of like, I like being chosen and being like set apart, but I also
some people
want.
Yeah, but there's a lot of people that want to just like that are perfectly fine, giving up everything, control of their life to God. Which in that case, those people could believe in predestination all they want, and it's not going to affect their mental state because they've already given it up. And it's an issue because like. I just talked about this with someone the other day, but we have there was someone was telling me something about someone in a relationship and they were having problems, and I'm just like, well, maybe they should separate, and it was a Christian I was talking to, and I'm just like, well, it's like for someone to be interested in someone after a long time and the love, as the world calls it, like the emotion wears off.
Yeah.
And there's no longer any commitment there. It's like, it's almost like you have to clear your head and then make that decision again to be with that person, right? You have to have that. There has to be a decision on your part or you're not going to feel into it, right? If you feel like all this was decided for you and you're backed into a corner, you're not going to want that relationship. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So people get stuck in that like biblically all the time. They get stuck. They feel like because the Bible is so hard on divorce that they just have no options, and that's tough.
So here's here's like 5 points where they kind of.
But point is like no one wants to be told that they don't have control over like their own actions.
Right.
Period. Right.
Well, some people, and then to get even a different psychological perspective is like some people are actively stuck in this victimhood like hamster wheel, and they don't want to take responsibility for their stuff, so they just find anyone and everyone to blame for all their problems.
Oh, like God did this to me. Like
we love like a scapegoat, or we love
just the path that
being
was
able
given to me.
Yeah, deflect and say like, it's these people's fault that I am the way I am.
Yeah, this is the hand I was dealt.
Which is to a certain degree, I think that is kind of the maturation process of you have to realize that like you are who you are because of who raised you and your conditioning, and then you have to become aware of that and really sit with it, and then you need to make the decision like, is this who I want to be?
Nice word, maturation.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I shouldn't have thought about that long, but it's a good word.
Thank you. Yeah, I need to start reading again, like actual books, because I feel like my vocabulary is like going down the toilet.
Even when you're writing emails, you don't go like on thesaurus.com.
Never.
What's another word for this that makes me sound
I usually
smarter?
got like 4 or 5 ways to say most of the important words that I need.
When I talk to like
consistently, and
when I send emails to like executives or like people that are like C-level leadership, not people that I'm like not talking to every day, right? People that like I'm sending that email and I'm copying
the pants off them,
copying 37 C-level hospital people. Mm-hmm. I'll be like, all right, give me that source.com. Let's do this.
True.
Using big words and shit.
Then you're gonna be screwed when you talk to them on the phone.
Yeah,
I can dance myself around some pretty good conversation on the phone.
Just see if like you can.
You think they know you're dancing?
Translate to like.
You think they hear them toes tapping?
I don't think so. I think I pulled off pretty well. I'm pretty good at BSing people.
That's a good trait.
Nice.
None of those people are going to listen to
that. Was not sarcastic at all. I think it's a great trait.
I mean, it's a trait you learn in real estate for sure.
That's funny.
You guys have learned it. I hear you guys on the phone.
Yeah. in the lingo.
I just say a lot of
language.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Gabby just needs to master
Circle back.
the art of getting people off the phone.
Dude, have you ever talked to that man?
I don't know. It's just too.
Have you ever talked to that man?
I've never talked to him. I was in the car when Nathan was talking to him on speaker. Yeah, I get it.
Talking about Troy?
Yeah, you just like.
Hey, let's not name drop on this podcast.
I tried to end that call like 5 times at least.
Well, the problem is,
Roy
and he doesn't know you, right? He just knows your voice. Like, I mean, most of commercial real estate, like it's a very like male, dominated still.
He didn't hold back though.
Yeah. And it's weird because I know that sometimes, like, even if people are sexist, which a lot of them are, because they're very like that minded, but hearing a female voice, like they just like conversing. They just like that interaction with females.
I should have started off
because they don't get.
Hi, my name's Gabby with Leaders Real Estate. I'm gay. I wanted to reach out in regard to
just throw it in there real quick. Just I'm gay.
Just to make sure you don't talk to me about anything other than this property.
Oh my gosh, that'd be hilarious.
Could you imagine how much that would throw people off?
I bet you could get people off the phone faster.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it's like,
they'd be like, property's no longer available.
They realize that door's closed. Yeah, that's hilarious.
That's so funny.
I'm sorry, Justin.
I do try to, if there's a female available on the contact rather than a male, I call her. I'm going to call them instead.
I do that too.
They just get to the point. Faster.
I do that. Yeah, but it's yeah. So okay, I'm sorry. My maturation is not at that level today. Apologize, Justin. I interrupted you.
It's all good. It's all good.
I think I interrupted you. I don't know where we were.
So this is, I guess, more topic specific, but I guess we get
That's
these
perfect.
So there's just a summary article, and it's talking about basically the 5. It's like the 5 main points where they kind of see things differently. So the first one would be Calvinism holds to the total depravity of man, while Arminianism holds to partial depravity. So Calvinism's doctrine, total depravity, states that every aspect of human is corrupted by sin. Therefore, human beings are unable to come to God on their own accord. Partial depravity states that every aspect of humanity is tainted by sin, but not to the extent that human beings are unable to place faith in God of their own accord. Okay, that seems like a stupid thing to argue over.
No, I did look up before this like several times trying to understand, like they always have like the 5 things about Arminianism versus Calvinism. None of it made sense to me.
Yeah.
So I'm just going with the whole predestination thing versus like, because I feel like all of those things fall under that umbrella. Like, do we have a choice or do we not have a choice?
Right.
Right. So the fact that there's anyone out there that exists that knows the outcomes of everything, it makes you feel like you don't have a choice, right? But every day I feel like I'm making choices. You know what I mean? What do you think, Gabby?
No clue.
Deep. Yeah, I mean,
this is just another one of those things where it's like
you could wrap your brain, like if you go down one tunnel, you can totally see it, right? Either one. Right. So it's like I totally see like, okay, I make my own decisions. I wasn't selected. I chose, right? And I did all this. But then the other way is like, well, yeah, if God's all knowing, he knows all this stuff's going to happen. He knows the decision I'm going to make. There's no way I could like make a decision. Oh, and then, just kidding. Another way. Cause he knew I was going to do that. So it's like, if that's the case, then how is it not just a machine?
Yeah.
Well, so he created a very complex machine. That he just knows the outcomes of everything.
Here's the weird aspect of all of this for me is.
But is there a different way to interpret Scripture that would suggest that God does not know everything we're going to do?
No, I think the Scripture is very clear that he is omniscient, all wise, all knowing, that he exists outside of space and time. So he sees the end from the beginning. So it's like he knows every decision we'll ever make.
Right. But so you could know.
According to Scripture.
Right. But what I'm saying is, like, could you say that? I'm trying to think of a good. What were you going to say? Sorry. You're going to interject something.
Another concept is the Calvinism believe that God's grace is irresistible. And then Arminianism says that an individual can resist the grace of God. So it's like that irresistible grace that Calvinism argues that when God calls a person to salvation, that person will inevitably come to salvation. And then the other side would say that God calls us to salvation, but many people resist and reject the call, which is like, I wish we could have an honest sit down with like pastors and leaders and people, because that was a huge thing growing up about like, I was called into the ministry at 08 summer camp,
chosen,
or I was, everyone's like, when'd you get the call? Or it's like a common thing. And I don't know if that's all fellowships or denominations, but that was very common, like the way I grew up.
Right.
And so I just wish I could have a sit down.
Because it was a big deal and it was encouraged and all that.
Yeah. And it was like, and you could tell it was another one of those things that was just like, it was like a notch on the belt, or it's like a little ribbon you could wear. It's like, received my call. I'm like one of the good ones, top of the class, kind of a thing. Yeah. And so you like almost like coveted that thing, or you made that like that calling like an idol in your life, or you just glorified that aspect of it.
So much. It's just crazy, like, to think how much we feel like we're not idolizing stuff when we are. Like, people think there's obvious idols, like money, sex, like, there's all these different things that we could point to. But then people don't realize it's like, we feel like just because things are related to ministry and the Bible and Jesus, that it's impossible to idolize it. But that's not true at all.
Well, and we're just not.
It's like me on keto. I'm like, okay, I can eat these certain things, so I'm gonna eat all of it. Like,
right.
So it's like that's not right. So it's like, all right, so I can, ministry's good, so I can idolize that call in my life now, like you just said.
Right.
It's just like because it's related to the church and the Bible, it falls in this sector. It doesn't matter how much like I focus on it, even if I focus on the process more than I focus on my relationship with God or whatever. It's still not an idol because it's serving Him. Like that's
right.
I feel like people are blind to that.
Dude, that's what's the dude's name? He writes a ton of books. John Bevere, and he wrote a whole book called "Good Not God." And he based it off the concept of like when Adam and Eve ate the Genesis account, when they ate the fruit in the garden that they weren't supposed to eat, it says like they saw it and they saw that it was good, like good for eating. And so he talked about how it's like good can often be the enemy of God. And in that sense, like with idols, it's like even if it's something that we feel like we're doing, I mean, you could bring up the whole Mary and Martha story. I know we've talked about it before, but like Jesus is basically telling them that like Mary's ministry just to Jesus, like at his feet, just sitting there, being with him, looking at him, listening to him, that was more important than Martha trying to like scurry around the house and make a meal and minister for him. Yeah. And it's like we don't realize that
even
like,
though all that stuff is good, it wasn't.
Yeah, like the first call is to minister to him, and then out of that overflow, minister for him, I think would be, in my understanding, the way it's kind of like laid out. But that's like, I wish we could just sit down with pastors, because this is like something that we just don't do well, when it's like, what is the calling? What does that actually look like? Like when you get your calling, or to say that like when God calls someone, they can't resist him. Like, are we talking about audible voices? Are we talking about just like hunches? And I feel like because
I think
people
that
are
definition is
afraid,
different for everyone. I think it's different for a lot of people. I don't think people could agree on that.
But it's that weird thing that people don't want to touch, because it's like, oh, well, it's his. Like, so it's like, however God wanted to let him know, it's like, we don't really discuss it. And then it's like, we make it out to be this like, oh, they got the calling. And I'm like, well, he's never like told me anything like audibly. And I've like come to conclusions and thoughts in my own mind, but I have no idea if they're literally planted there by God.
How many people challenged your calling?
Not many at all. Most people encouraged it.
I think there's value in challenging it, because when you say like, oh, I heard from God that I'm supposed to buy this expensive car so I can Uber it in Toro or whatever, like, right? Like, that's a super random example, but it's just like, no, you probably heard from yourself that you wanted to do that, and then you validated it through some like, falsified like thing that you felt or saw that like wasn't God, right? So it's important to challenge yourself on that.
Well,
so you could because this calling is such an idolized and sought after thing, like in your upbringing, who knows that like the people that like really want that just so they can have that kind of status could claim they have a call in their life. Like, and there's literally no one challenging it.
For sure. Well,
Like,
and that's what I would say is like the fruit of like, you know, for every, and who knows what the metric even is, but it's like for every, you know, big church on the corner. I mean, there's a ton of churches that are just struggling and they're just having a hard time. And it's like, I mean, I've said it before. I mean, I do kind of feel bad, and also disclaimer, like listening back on a lot of early episodes, I'm like, man, I was just scorched earth coming for next. So I'm going to try to be a little bit better about being respectful, at least when I'm like just calling things out like I see it. But when it comes to like God calling you to things, and then like, if you believe that God called you to do this, then it's like, if the money isn't there or it's not adding up, like something's wrong. Either you heard wrong.
See, that's the other thing too, because you could go down a whole rabbit.
Because if it was God's calling for you to do this, and it's like, hey, he says like, my yoke is easy, my burden is light. Like this thing's not supposed to be like, that's kind of the part where I got to with like, I was so weary and just burnt out. And I was like, dude, it's not supposed to be this way.
Well, it's not supposed to be easy either, right?
Well, it shouldn't be. Yeah, it shouldn't be.
Because then that's what we've talked about
devoid of work,
where it's like pastors just they write a message. Well, a lot of pastors just write a message and don't do anything during the week.
But I still believe that it's got to come from such a deep place of passion that like it could be like exhausting or tiring, but it shouldn't be like when you get into that. Like I talked about I think I mentioned on one of the last podcasts, like that busyness being a condition of the schedule, but like weariness being like a condition of the soul type of thing, where it's like, it's okay to be exhausted and be tired.
You're saying,
but just that, like that soul kind of exhaustion where you're like, I just need a freaking rest from all this. I need a break. Like,
but to bring it back to the church that's struggling, you're saying that like, maybe one of the reasons they're struggling is that he shouldn't even been in that position in the first place.
Well, and I'm not the judge, so who knows?
Yeah. But I mean, like, there's always that question you ask. And
part of the reason, like, why do we need, like, because when Paul was writing letters, right, he wrote Romans, it was the church of Jesus in Rome. Like, it's like the church of Jesus in Corinth, like the church of Jesus in Thessalonica. Like, it's not like to this specific church in that city. It's like, okay, so we understand you guys are meeting from home to home, but it's like there was still this unity among like all the churches that subscribe to faith in Jesus Christ as Savior.
That's another conversation.
And so we've just turned it into this crazy things. Because, I mean, why do we have 1 million churches like in the cities that all have their own buildings with their own mortgages or whatever, with their own expense and budget report? Like, I think it's because we just all look at the book and we just see it like, and it's maybe like today's comments or today's topic. It's like, we choose to look at something that's like, I don't know.
Argue that translations,
I don't knows.
You could argue that translations are somewhat to blame for that, because like the wood getting cut from the other piece of wood, getting cut from the new piece of wood.
Sure.
And so we've gotten so far that people could translate anything they want. And so we've gotten so far from the original text. But the other, I want to go
draw the line in the sand over like one verse.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm not saying that verse is
that's
true.
What this whole podcast is about. So it's like
in context, we have to look at everything.
But the struggling church, we get back to that, because I also, something doesn't sit right with me when people are always like, I don't know if it's a comfort thing. I don't know if it just makes people feel more at peace with their lives, but they're always like, God brought me through everything to this point. It was just his plan all along. And I don't know if it was his plan all along, then that just, like, first of all, it speaks to the predestination thing. Basically, it just means that like you're in this place because God wanted you, and that's what he's the one who did all this. You didn't make any decisions. Mm-hmm. And again, I think it's a cop out, for agency, like taking responsibility for your decisions. It's like, say you started a church and had to close the doors. It's like, well, this was a valuable experience God put me through. No, maybe you put yourself through it.
Yeah. Well, even look at, and I don't know if this is a perfect example, but like, someone like, and you probably know a lot more than me, but like Greg, when he started one church, like still working, I mean, was he working at LA Fitness or
Urban Active at the time? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So wherever he was working, but it was kind of a dual thing. Like, I'm sure he wasn't making bank, obviously, but it was probably more or less partially with like networking and connection, just meeting people in the community.
Yeah,
and that was kind of his people. But still, just like, but something like that though. Like most people, like when they go out and try to start like churches, it's all they do is just church plant. I'm not saying it's not a massive job, but something like that where it's like you could just see from the outside like Greg's passion to do this.
It was passion,
like,
dude. I mean, one of the biggest
to have
things,
a family and kids and plant a church, and you're working like a second job to meet people and make a little extra money.
I will say one of the most impressive things that we did at the beginning that impressed me about Greg was his willingness. So they got like, I told him like, hey, just for this gym. And I was like, I'm fresh out of school. And I'm like, not fresh out of school. I was working at the district and stuff. I basically, for all the video stuff, I mean, I almost had a blank checkbook, right? Like I was able to spend a lot of money on stuff. And
video? Are you talking about the office?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
For district?
For the district office.
Yeah.
But then like that kind of translated to the church. I was just like, all right, in order to do this right, we're going to have to spend some money. Yeah. And I was like, we can do some
like sound system?
Yeah, we can do video stuff, but and the lighting stuff, but let's make that stuff basic. Let's focus most of the budget on audio. And they had a guy give money like so that they could buy this $30,000 PA, right? Which is the one that we had in the gym for forever. Because the board that we had was a digital board, like it was a decent setup. We had in-ear monitors, like right off the rip.
Was that all that stuff was 30?
Yeah, because we got the PA used for like 20 from California. So I sourced all that stuff, but it was crazy because the PA just $20,000. To that point, he had never written a check that big. Yeah. And so you could tell like he was passionate, and it was demonstrated through like his willingness to do that. He said he was like shaking as he like wrote that check. He was just like,
that's hilarious. Stephen Furtick has a similar story where, because I guess his father-in-law, I don't know if he's on the board or whatever, but basically like they were at one point early on, I forget, I think he writes about it in Sun Stand Still, which is a great book. He basically said that the bank account was looking real suspect early on, and he just felt like he was supposed to just literally spend the last, I don't know if it was like 30 grand or something, somewhere around that number. I don't know if it was 30 or 50, but on like a whole sound system and PA. And his father-in-law was just like, dude, this is a mistake. His whole board was basically just like, nah, we're about to walk if you like, this is not responsible. And he did it, and he was literally just like, he did it with a sound system, and then he did it with a massive like Easter outreach where they like dropped everything they had in the bank to do like this massive like Easter egg release from a helicopter over a giant football field. It was pretty epic. And but he attributes both of those things to massive like pivotal shifts that they really started to see a lot of success and growth.
Which is tough because at that point I feel like it's like the guy who's never gambled and goes to Vegas the first time and wins big. Mm-hmm. Because then he thinks he can do it every time. That's I've always had a problem with like lack of I guess accountability with pastors. Pastors go rogue. They start making their own decisions. It doesn't always work out that way. Mm-hmm. He's at the place he is, so now he can say that. Right. It's like the guy who's successful. Like, oh, this is how I did it. Okay, what about the millions of people that tried that and it didn't work? Yeah. Right. So it's like you don't hear about those people. Yeah. So there's merit in like their board's concern, like,
for sure.
Because in that story, he makes the whole board look like doofuses, right? But it's like, well, it's a valid concern because most of the time it ain't gonna work. Right. So I hate that because those kind of stories just make pastors think they can be cowboys.
Well, so then
you know what I mean, like
because the tricky part about that is like,
or
do we believe that
I've seen it where people like will hand select their board to like a bunch of yes men that they'll just agree with whatever they want to do, which is BS.
Yeah. I don't know. It just gets the hard part is like you don't want to make things political, but like it is a political, like it's not political, but by nature. But anytime you have an organization ran by people, there's going to be politics involved. And I'm not talking about like Republican, Democrat. I'm talking about just multiple people seeing things different ways and having different solutions. How did it happen to different problems?
Right? Like I wonder how it happened. I mean, how did the church like morph into this?
Because it didn't take long, dude.
I'm talking about like a church board. Like, why do we even need a church board? Because we have a pastor, right? Who we can't just have a dictator. So I guess that's probably why they had the board to keep him under control. But then, like, why did he even need that? If we were all meeting in our houses, we would all just be in constant like, parallel study, and then we would discuss it.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of like how it would work. And then like, yeah, sure. I guess you had this oversight, like Paul would write letters. So was Paul kind of the district manager? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
How did the structure work at that time?
Well, it seems like the church has had local leaders.
Where did we evolve to where it is now? Like,
yeah, I mean, because even back in like the Council of like Nicaea around like 300 AD, like that's why most of those councils were forming and would happen, is because throughout the Roman Empire, early on in like the early centuries of early Christianity, they were just starting to see things differently. Like the absolute, like I think one of the main things for the Council of Nicaea was just like the absolute divinity of Jesus versus like partial divinity, or just the like tiny little differences. Like it even started that early, right? So then you fast forward and you've got like Martin Luther stapling his whole 99 or whatever thesis to all the church doors about how they're getting it wrong. I mean, it's just all throughout history, there's just been people who have had agendas to marry church and state for power, essentially, and control. And then the American experiment, we were essentially birthed out of a Judeo-Christian framework, but we tried our best to separate church and state. But then, I mean, even look at what's happening now. Like you can't separate the things, because like one is this like, is supposed to be this moral institution. And so when you have laws like what we're going through now, like you can't separate church and state. We have so many people that are just going to be pro-life no matter what.
Yeah,
like it's gonna affect.
Like I don't.
It's gonna affect policy. I don't think you can ever really truly divorce them.
Well, the problem is, I think with today's culture, it's required if you really want people to come to your side. Again, it's like people want that. People want to think that they're making a decision for themselves, and if they feel like someone's trying to enforce the way they should live their life through policy, then there's no chance they're going to ever go over there.
Yeah.
That's my issue with the whole thing.
Well, it's the bigger problem.
And I don't know if it's always been that way, but that is definitely where we're at today.
Well, dude, look at just the human nature of just the way we're wired, right? The same people, and this goes both sides 100%. It's just human nature. Like the same people that are saying my body, my choice here are the same people that are saying shut up, don't ask questions, get the vaccine. Doesn't matter. It's like, and I'm not saying one's right and one's wrong.
They're not all the same people, but the majority of people that would do that.
Generally, a lot of people who are really hardcore on this camp are also.
Well, that's because they've aligned with a political party and they just like espouse to all of the beliefs of that party.
Well, and I know this is kind of apples and oranges, obviously. And it's not a perfect comparison, but and you see it the same on the other side. The people that are just like, we are going to tell you, pro-life people, like we are going to vote and say what you're allowed to do with your body, are also the people that are saying, don't tell me what to do with my body in this COVID shot. Mm-hmm. So it's like, it happens on both sides. Like human nature is just
contradictory.
When it works for me, I like it. When it works against me, I'm going to call it out. Like it's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And it's always been that way, I feel like.
That is interesting, right? Yeah. Yeah, you could find those examples everywhere. What I want to talk about again, so the more I'm thinking about it, as we're both talking about this is a really hard thing to reconcile. It's like the chicken and the egg argument, because you think about everything that you do up to this point in my life, like, right? Like if anyone knew everything that was going to happen in my life before this point, I don't feel like I had a choice, right? I felt like, in the moment I felt like I did, but it's just like, did I? Right. You get that weird thought, like, and kind of like profound thought. You're just like, what in the, like, you know what I mean?
Right.
So that's what I was saying. You were saying the scriptures about God being all knowing and all, omnipresent and all these things, which is still possible, right? For God to do. But at the same time, it's like, say that I had like 1 million bouncy balls. Okay. I roll them like down a hill, a paved hill or something. I could say that I know how this is going to end, right? These all are going to be at the bottom of the hill, right? So, but at the same time, because I know that, I know exactly what's going to happen at the end. Does that mean that I know exactly where each ball was going to divert and go like on its little path, right? So that doesn't make me not all knowing, because I know the eventuality of what I created and where it's going to end. Is it speaking to that?
Oh, I mean, the way I've understood it.
I'm not trying to argue that God is not all knowing. I'm just, I'm prodding. I'm like, this is like more of a thought experiment, right? Mm-hmm. So,
I mean, the way I understand it, or grew up understanding it, was, all wise, all knowing. So it's like, not just does he know where we're going to finish, but at any given point, he knows where we would be. Like, that's, as far as I understood, it's like,
right. But
when
he says, like, what you just said is not in the Bible. It like, God is all wise, all knowing is, but the way you just took it from there is something that you were either taught or you've thought about yourself. But like, what I'm saying is, what's the text? Go to the scripture.
Because for omniscience, like the definition of omniscience is all wise and all knowing. Like, he knows there's nothing he doesn't know. And he exists outside of space and time. So at any given time, he could just look and he would know. Like, if all wise, all knowing, I would think.
So if he knows what's happening and he's not subject to time and space, so he can almost see the future. Like, this is just so.
Yeah, he would know the
confusing.
future. 'Cause, I mean, well, that's how. I mean, Jesus says only the Father knows when I'll be coming back. So he knows evidently.
Right. So what I'm saying is, if you exist outside of space time, theoretically, no one knows this for sure, but theoretically, you could jump anywhere in time you want.
Yeah.
I mean, if you were God or whatever, but at the same time, for us to exist within these parameters and have these rules, I mean, I still like, my mind hits a roadblock on how this all reconciles, right? Because I still don't feel like if someone knows what's going to happen, I don't feel like I have free will to a degree. Mm-hmm. Like, I have this fake free will. It's like when when you lock a kid in the backyard, like they're going to stay there, and like, they think that they're free because they get to play with all this stuff, but no, they're really just in this box.
You're in a
So it's like
fenced in area.
It's just like, I just feel, maybe day to day I feel like I have this freedom, but really, I mean, if someone knows the outcome, then I don't feel like I have that.
Yeah. I mean, when I just
no
try
alternative. So who cares?
No, well,
because we will
here
never
to talk
not make
about
our own
this.
decisions.
We're
That's
here to
the
talk
thing.
about it, Gabby.
It's like back to the speaking in tongues bit, where we're just like, well, I don't know if it was me. I don't know if it was God. Like, I don't know. And the same thing with like the thoughts. When I think about it, it's just like we try to do all of this mental gymnastics to make everything fit so perfectly and neat into the scripture, and make sure there's not a single scripture that doesn't conflict with another one. And we try to do all this stuff. And it's like, just get quiet, go inside, and actually like, just think about it. Just think about it. Like, when I think about it, it's like, I don't know if certain thoughts come from God necessarily or from my own mind. I don't know how to know that unless God literally audibly is like, this is the voice of God. These are my thoughts. Like, it doesn't matter. Either way, I'm not going to know. But what I do know is,
I've never heard anyone say that they've heard an audible voice. I mean, granted, okay, some people have said that, but they seem like crazy to me. Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if it's like,
I like to picture Jesus.
Yeah, it's like Siri. You're like, God, man, if you do talk, can you talk like Billy Butcher from that one show?
Oh my gosh,
just like,
you know what I wish? I wish on your phone you could like choose the voice and the name for your Siri. But they don't let you do that, which is stupid. Yeah. Amazon or Alexa lets you like pick a few different things. There's like computer, there's like whatever, or there's like OK Google for Google stuff. But I wish you could do Jarvis. Like, I've been wanting to do that forever.
That'd be cool.
And I want the voice.
That'd be epic.
Of Jarvis on my phone.
That'd be crazy. Anyway. But yeah, I mean, just to wrap up that thought, it's like, when I think about like, okay, call it God, call it the divine. You could even say it's a matter of like your kind of spirit versus your ego type of a thing, right? Where like, if I have a thought that is really rooted in like self-preservation or selfishness or a way to get me more things, that's probably like, okay, that comes from a place of ego. Like, you're concerned, you're looking at self. thoughts that lead you to a more selfless existence, I would argue, are those like more like spiritual, divine type thoughts. Because I think the human nature or the nature of God is kind of selfless, right? Mm-hmm. It's each one of them defers to the other, right? The Father says, just look at the Son. And then the Son says, just, go to the Father. And then the Holy Spirit comes to reveal Jesus. And then Jesus says, I'm going, but I'm leaving a helper who's going to be even more helpful than me.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like this perfect, selfless, complementary thing where it's like, there is no ego. And so, like, when I think about it, it's like, I don't know if God dropped that thought into my brain. It's like, I just know I have thoughts. A lot of them are very selfish in nature. That probably comes from ego. And then a lot of them, when you get inspired or when you're in a church or you see like a need and you're compelled to like help someone who's in need, like those, I would say, are like those more divine helps when your eyes aren't just on you and what you need, but you're actually looking for places where you can help. And I think we just overcomplicate it and just be like, oh, I got the call from God to do this, this, and this. I'm like, well, if you maybe listen, God might be telling you to put like $10 in your pocket just in case you see someone who's like homeless today. Like little practical things. Yeah. Instead of making it this grandiose like life calling about like I've been chosen by God himself to like build this ministry on the earth and da-da-da-da. Because it's like, how do you know, like when you go buy a really nice PA, or you spend a lot of money on something, it's like you could have a debate on like, okay, so is God building the church through that sound system? Maybe. Or is man kind of building the church by just putting out really quality music, which is like, what's right, what's wrong, who knows?
Did God compel men to do that so that
and did he intervene? Like, because I think the whole thing,
that's something that too, like I think about, and granted, like these aren't questions we're going to know the answers to, right? But I think about, does God know everything he's going to do in advance?
I don't know.
Does God himself have agency over himself? You know what I mean? Like,
I think you have to say yes.
He's going to know everything that he's going to do.
I would say according to Scripture, but like I think most people would say according to the Bible. How confusing
is that? Like,
well, that's I mean,
it's so confusing. Like what?
But that's half of the problem is like people.
And then the whole thing about saying going to do. So that's based on my frame of reference because I'm thinking from a space-time perspective. I'm thinking of in the future. There's no, it's almost like there's no such thing as future in where God exists.
He's just here.
Yeah.
He's everywhere.
So all of his actions are all happening at the same time. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's so hard. It's so hard to like think about these things knowing that we're stuck in this in this time.
Alan Watts I like him. I like listening to a lot of stuff, but he basically talks about how it's like eternity isn't the future or the past. Like eternity is just now. Like we will always only have the present moment. We will never have the future. We will never have the past. The only thing we have in life is literally the present moment.
Yeah. When you think about that as it relates to eternity, it's huge because it's like, yeah, I mean, eternity just is the present moment. It's always going to be the present moment. There is no past and future, like you just said. It's my head hurts. Shit. Yeah, you catching all this?
But that's why, like,
trying not to.
That's why for me, it's like I want to
think about it.
I want the conversation to just become more like bottom shelf in terms of like, what does it actually mean when people say like the Lord called me to do this or this is what happened? Like what does that actually mean? Like, do we believe that God is literally in heaven, like handpicking, like this one gets to lead a church and this one's gonna be in the marketplace, and it's like
this one gets to be a garbage man.
You can't say
this one needs to be a plumber
because, like you said, like whether you believe the Calvinism versus Arminianism, whether it's free will or predestination, it's like I can make whatever choice I want. So it's like you can't say I don't have free will. Right. So it's like based on the conditioning and the places I live and the way I grew up, like, sure, certain decisions are probably more.
God made you knowing you'd make that choice.
Sure. But it's like you can't say I don't have free will because at any given time with enough discipline or determination, I could just choose to do whatever I wanted or attempt to do whatever I want. Right.
At least that's what you think.
Because it's like, dude, if I want to go get food, like I'll go get food. Like, within like reason, what I'm like able to actually afford or whatever like that.
And it was all part of the plan.
But Well, that's exactly it. So it's like, sure, you can say that God knew what we would do because he exists outside of space and time and he sees everything. But you also can't say it's like we absolutely have free will.
I bet you're going to play disc golf today.
I don't know if I am. We went yesterday.
Now you're not going to, just to exercise your free will, aren't you?
I'm not going to say I didn't bring an extra T-shirt, but I didn't also plan on playing.
I'm 100% always
prepared.
not
bring one. I need to keep
Any
extra
day,
clothes.
anytime.
I need to just bring a bathing suit that I can just let dry out.
Yeah, I keep like
every
2-3
day.
pairs of shorts, a couple tank
Smell.
tops.
Huh?
It'll smell.
Bro.
I would take it home and wash it once every month.
It would smell.
Yeah.
No, yeah, you gotta, yeah.
I've dried a lot of wet shirts on the back of that your old chair. So whoever gets that,
I think it's technically Austin's chair because I took my chair with me into the
That's
office.
hilarious.
That's wild.
Yeah. No. So I mean, this conversation just makes my head spin. I think I've made that clear. I just don't. Part of it's just unsettling, just to imagine that we were created with free will, and that's pretty clear. But then the thought that we wouldn't have free will kind of makes sense when you talk about that whole idea. So it's definitely a debate, like, because there are people who are Christians that just think I was like you just said, I was chosen. This is
Well, I still think, dude, when you just get away and you let go of everything, and you're like, what do I have? Like everything, every upbringing, every conditioning, every belief system, and you're just like, okay, what do I have right now? I have the present moment. And like, there's all the sayings. It's like people that are depressed are often living in the past, or people that are anxious are often living in the future. And to be at peace is to just truly just be in the present moment. And so and whether that's like perfectly exact, like people think about it in that sense where it's like, because of like the scriptures or because of like these things where it's like the calling on my life, or when we like hyper focus like the afterlife, we like almost say like, you just got to endure this life to get to the good place, or like you're going to suffer in this life. The Bible's pretty clear. Like you're going to have many hard times. Like you're going to suffer in this life, but like hold tight, keep the faith. It's going to get better. Like I still think that's like the more and more we're focusing on a destination or where we're going, it's like we just pull ourselves out of the present moment and we just live in stress. Yeah. Because we're just like, we're stressed about what we got to do later. We're stressed about plans we committed to. We're stressed about like retirement. We're stressed about family and security and income. It's like, those are all good things to like think about, but it's like I feel like most of us are like we put way too much of our energy and focus on those things and not enough on just like the present moment and actually like enjoying life. Like if it's a 30-year long journey to retire, like I'm sorry, I would rather retire with less money and have fun on the journey.
For sure. I'm in that boat too, for sure.
Go absolutely nuts.
Yeah, but some people, it's like the Donald Trump kind of people, life's a game and you just want the highest score.
Sure.
I'm not about that. I mean, I want to enjoy life. Like, yeah, I'd like to have nice things later in life, or just be able to kind of live the life the way I want. I want to travel. I mean, I think a lot of people do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, living life in the present moment is, I think, something that, I mean, what's cool is like I think we've learned that a lot in this office, which is cool. Like we're just kind of enjoying during the day. Gabby's smiling. I don't know what that's about.
I'll tell you guys later. It's this guy's response.
Okay.
It's great.
Okay. Yeah. I thought she was smiling because she was living in the moment.
So she is.
So it was, yeah, she is. But it's like, I forget what I was going to say. I was listening to you.
Listening to who? You're the one that distracted yourself.
No. I forgot what I was going to say. I brought you up as a stall so I could remember what I was going to say, but I was listening to Justin.
Completely forgot.
Yeah. Because it was also about I have and this could be a whole different podcast if we talk about the chosen, right? Because I have heard, in the Bible and different people say it, it's just like, God's only going to choose so many people, a fraction of the people that are here on earth.
Well, most of us are going to hell.
Yeah.
Like wide is the road that leads to destruction, many are on it. Narrow is the road that leads to life, and few are on it.
So why?
Most of us are screwed.
I mean, this is a question a lot of people have asked, but asking it in this way, and it's like, so is everyone else just like, I mean, granted, we could argue what hell is, right? I mean, just like you die and cease to exist. I feel like that's probably the most realistic definition of hell. But the other thing is like
no more consciousness, just lights out.
Well, eternal separation from God, and that's what that would be, right? I mean, how else would you define that? Because if God's omnipresent,
I think
and you exist anywhere, if God's omnipresent, you're always going to have access to him. Yeah. But it talks about eternal separation from him.
I just think that
only means you cease to exist.
It's a stretch. I understand what the scripture says. I just say, like, when I just try to think about it logically, which also is a whole fallacy within itself, because it's like, I am a limited human. So to try to like project my like understanding of things onto God is pointless, but whatever, I'm going to do it anyways.
Here's the thing. The way I wanted to frame it was, so did God put all of the rest of these people on earth as just NPCs, just so that we could have the free will? If we were already chosen,
just have people to play with while we're here.
If we were already chosen, then it's like, all right, well, then it's, it's up to the chosen. Like, the chosen are going to make the decision. It's already decided. So then all these other people that are here, it's almost like there's no reason. There's no reason they're here.
And then you like, big picture, like, so God created them to ultimately go through eternal separation, because they didn't get chosen, and it's like, that's where I'm just like, okay,
no, and you've said this before, where personally, just in your spirit, you recognize that, like, how could an all-loving God allow for this?
Well, yeah, exactly. Like, I get if you need to create a really gnarly place for Lucifer and his followers, because you're that whole
picture of hell, I think, is false. I just think that's a human thing.
Well, think about
people like made up, because that's the only way they could understand it.
Dude, think about everything else in the world at that time. Greek mythology, they had their heavens, they had Hades, the underworld. I mean, everything. It's all the same, dude. There's even a story of this guy. I have to find the video, or I have to find the story again. But it's a guy in like ancient Greek mythology, and it's like, it is like crazy how much a lot of it lines up with like the kind of the archetype of Jesus, and how it's like, we believe the sacraments are like drinking his blood and stuff like that. Like, there are so many like parallels between this guy that came before Jesus and just Greek culture. Like, it's like a lot of these belief systems were very shared amongst a lot of like people groups back in that day when it was first kind of thought up, or at least when it was established. And then Christianity we won we got enough people and won the wars.
It's funny. No one is willing to go back and deconstruction's a bad word to use, because that's like a thing now people do who, or whatever. But I guess the other
anarchy.
Yeah. No, well, tearing it down and building it back. It's almost like that's what needs to happen, and I'm not like, yeah, it's just, now I'm Marxist as it relates to Christianity. But basically, no, what I'm saying is like, you kind of have to look at it from scratch, because, dude, how many people still look at the sky and pray to God? Like, he ain't up there. Mm-hmm. He's everywhere.
Yeah.
Why do we do that? It's just it's a habit, right? And we do so many things out of habit that, like, we really truly don't.
Why does everyone close their eyes when we're praying?
I think that's a focus thing. I think it's just so you don't get distracted. But when I was
little, I was just like,
no, yeah, you got to peek.
Some people see it as irreverent. If you don't, I'm looking at things while people are praying.
The idea for me, at least with that, is the goal is to focus on God. So closing our eyes, not talking,
removes distraction.
It's like, you're going to be distracted by less. But
I'm just saying that there's so many habits from like that time that you're just talking about, like the Greek mythological days where people were still believing in all these myths. And then you have Christianity that springs out of that, but we're still happy to just believe in, the simple nature of how we understood things back then and apply it to today. And it just doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And people see the way these silly things that we do, and they automatically write it off.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't line up with what they're observing.
Well, the world itself was so much more barbaric too. So like, it makes sense why, like, back then their version of hell would have been like torture.
Yeah.
Right. Because that was kind of common in that day. But it's like, dude, to me, it's just like, it's when I'm outside of the, like, can't read the label from inside the bottle. When I try to just actually get outside and let go of any sense of understanding and just be like, what is my spirit really like when I think about this? Like, does it sit well with me that, like, okay, regardless of, the normal response is like, God didn't create hell for people. He created it for the devil and his angels. And that's a place where you can just go pay your debt if you want to, kind of a thing. You're just like, okay, let's say that, okay, that belief system, but it's like, I'm God. I create someone because I love them. I want a relationship with them. They never make their way back to me. I'm also God. It's like, okay, so it's possible to have a really gnarly hell for the devil and his angels, but also to have another place for people who like don't make it to me.
Dude, it's like there's so many creative thoughts I have on all of this shit. And I mean, like, here's another thought, right? Here's another theory, okay? What if...
Lay it on me.
What if this is just phase 1 of life? We move on to phase 2 and we die, right? Like I've talked about the multi-dimensional thing, which I fully believe in. But like, say phase 2 is when we die.
Just because I think you
and
want
we just keep keep going. And it's just like we just move through different phases, and say the next phase is like final or whatever it is. Doesn't matter what phase of life we're in, whether alive here on earth or we're dead, right? We can either live in heaven here or hell here. I think that's pretty apparent. We can experience heaven here, and they talk about living, in the kingdom of God on earth. Right. Right.
I think a lot of on earth as it is in heaven.
Yeah. So like, what if the next phase or heaven or whatever you want to call it is just continued pursuit, right? Like it's just
another realm of consciousness.
Well, yeah, but like that's what heaven would be anyway, because we're going to be conscious, right?
You'd think. Yeah.
So say that's the case, but like I'm just saying a different way to look at it is like, all right, well, we experience hell on earth, right? We experience hell in the next life if we're not within the kingdom of God, in the parameters of whatever the kingdom of God looks like. Yeah. So it's like, what if it was like eternal separation just means eternal for as long as you don't want to subscribe to the doctrine or like what, God's plan. So, but at any time you could turn. Like, I don't know. Like, does it really mean it? So, you know what I mean? So like when you say like eternally you're going to suffer, eternally be separated from God. Well, what if that just means eternally for as long as you don't want to make the decision?
Entirely possible.
So I don't know. I just, and I'm not saying that's a for sure thing. I'm just saying like, that's another way you could translate that.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's, again, it's like you look at a lot of the popular belief at the time, and it's like everyone just believed that heaven and hell were physical places that you went after this life here. And it's like,
I want to do some study on that.
Pearly gates.
I want to talk to someone who knows doctrine better than I do.
I know, because I'm just like, dude, I don't think that there's a golden city up there somewhere with streets made of diamonds or whatever. I forget. I mean, it would be gangster.
No, but that's the problem. Like we're using our life experience to try to like project on what heaven looks like.
I bet you God's got some dope rocks that we don't even know about, that we don't have on earth, that are even more shiny than diamonds. Like that's just the best thing we can imagine.
Yeah.
So we were just like, this is how dope it's gonna be. God's probably just like, y'all don't have any idea how many more dope, like, because aren't they trying to mine asteroids for like super rare materials that we don't really have here? Mm-hmm. There's all kinds of stuff out there we don't even know about.
Yeah, I would love to explore.
And then we're just like, the God of the universe is going to make heaven out of earthly compounds, just a lot of nice ones.
Well, he made heaven when he made earth, right? Isn't that in Genesis? God created heaven and the earth. I mean, he made it. Heaven hasn't always existed.
We talked about this one day, though, because it was like, it wasn't until like day 3 that he created heaven and earth. Or heaven and hell. Or wait.
In the beginning, God created the heavens. Isn't that verse 1?
In the beginning, I forget. Hang it.
Genesis 1:1, Justin.
No, I know, but we talked about this on one of the podcasts with Luke, I remember.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember, like...
Well, God's always existed, but heaven hasn't always existed, right? I mean, I think you could draw that from the Bible pretty easily.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so at first he created light, then he created the firmament, which is like the atmosphere, I think, in the midst of the waters, and let it divide waters from the waters. Oh, because there was like a, yeah, because that's like how rain came down.
Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. It's right there. Wait, did you read the first verse?
No, I know.
It says it. Wait, what do you mean?
Oh, maybe it was the sun? Because it says day 4 he created the sun, moon, and stars. So how the heck?
That's our assumption that that's the heavens, though. Heaven is another dimension. We've established this.
No, but he's talking about, because they talks about the great light by day and the little one by night. So sun, they believe.
Yeah, that's the earth.
Genesis
that's
says
the earth and like our solar system and all that stuff. But that's not the heavens. The heavens and the earth. I think.
Yeah, I don't remember. Maybe we were just talking about the sun.
I think, like to me, that means earth is like when you say created the earth, that creates the earth and the universe, its support system. That's not heaven to me.
But then how can he create the earth day 1, but then we don't have a sun or a moon or stars until day 4?
Well, he creates the earth. It doesn't mean it's habitable.
So it's just like this floating rock.
Sure. Dude,
okay.
honestly, man, I believe I believe God created through the Big Bang, and I think this is just a colorful story to try to like explain it. I've talked about that.
I know. That's just.
But I'm just saying,
that's taboo for some people. Yeah.
Yeah, because the Big Bang, they politicized
it's synonymous
it,
with evolution,
and like a lot of people. Well, and I also believe in evolution too.
Yeah.
So it's like, but because
stoned ape theory,
but because like Christians are so butthurt about all these atheists combating them with evolution, they don't want to believe in it or think that it's congruent with what they believe.
That's why, again, I think my position on all this is I don't think it's really important to know how we got here. I think if it was that important, God would have made it more obvious and we wouldn't be arguing over it. Because and that's why I think the point of life is just to actually live. And
you know what's funny though?
Be in the present and find joy and not argue over
what's ironic
things we'll never know.
Is if the Genesis account was not in the Bible, I think there would be a lot less people that could really like turn down Christianity on the basis of like scientific theory.
And Moses wrote it, who didn't exist for like thousands of years after.
Well, I'm just telling you, if God hadn't included it, would more people be Christians? You know what I mean? Like, would there be more people that would accept?
Well, that's exactly is the hard part. Is like in a lot of Christian circles, like it's a big deal if you question anything that Scripture says, because the whole point is it's Second Timothy 3:16, all Scripture is God breathed and is useful for teaching, rebuking, correcting, training in righteousness. I
think it's just silly for anyone to think that Bible is a scientific account.
Well, but that's literally what a lot of people believe, and it's like you can't really even have much of a debate because it's like there's nothing we're never going to actually know, like where there's no way to actually know. So it's like these are like beliefs that are just like there is no point.
But the thing is, it's just like I've brought this up before.
To like die on these hills.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, like, as a Christian, for you to not be open to the things that we're observing as humankind,
right,
is stupid.
Right.
I'm just going to ignore that because my faith tells me otherwise. No, your faith doesn't tell you otherwise. The book doesn't tell you otherwise. Your preschool understanding of it tells you otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're spoon-fed everything from the stage every week, and like you get all your beliefs from your parents and your friends. Like,
right, you don't wrestle with this stuff. Yeah, you have to. Yeah, you got to wrestle through this stuff.
Anyway,
but again, like I'm to the point now where I'm just like, yeah, sure, it's fun to like have a conversation about this stuff, but it's crazy that a lot of people will spend their lives focused on these gray area issues where it's like there is a 0 chance we are ever going to actually know on this side of eternity, or that's actually, I shouldn't say it like that.
Enjoy the time you got.
Yeah. So it's like, if you're just always so worried about just like, I don't know. It's just such a weird, just human nature, man. It's just the way we interact. We don't want to upset people. We don't want to disappoint people. We don't want to upset the apple cart too much.
We don't want to question.
People get real weird when you start questioning stuff.
It's insecurity. It's why people get weird. They're insecure in what they believe. Well, they just don't want that to be revealed.
Well, the other problem is a lot of people hold a belief that because where I'm at, like, let's say, God forbid, something were to happen and I passed away, like before I ever like finished this spiritual journey. And so it's like, you got people who are just like, they're concerned for like my eternal soul type of thing. And not even making it about me.
When your spiritual journry is over, like, is it ever going to end?
Well, I completely agree. I think that's also another lazy thing that we do, and it's just like Christianity looks good, makes the most sense. Like, let's just roll with it, and then they don't really ever like change. People don't. I shouldn't say generally. Like, I don't know. probably a little too much judgment, but it's like, it's just become way too common to just subscribe to the belief system because we like the benefits that come with that belief system.
Yeah.
And we don't actually like do the work to read the scripture and actually like begin to really get that stuff deep into our core and really begin to apply it and live in a very selfless way. Like, we are very selfish Christians, which is just a oxymoron. Mm-hmm. And it's just society has kind of conditioned it to be okay to be this way.
Yeah.
And so it's like, we can't even get into like there are so many conversations that we can't even have because, like we've talked about a million times, the cutting the boards. Like, it's just, we have strayed so far away from the initial blueprint that like, really we're working with a different religion here.
Right. Yeah. No, you're right. We're way over our normal time.
Sorry, Gabby.
Who would have thought?
Who would have thought?
I feel like this is our normal time. What are you talking about?
That's what I was going to say. I was like, let's just make an hour and a half our normal.
Between an hour and a half, we'll try to stick. But yeah, this has been interesting, and I have a headache now.
I'm hungry.
Yeah, hungry. Mm-hmm. Creates a lot of hunger. These conversations. All right. Well, thanks
for
everyone.
Jesus.
It's hot take from Gabby.
It was his reaction for me.
Yeah, no, it's good. That's good. Yep. So everyone listening, appreciate you. Make sure you like and subscribe. Tell your friends about the pod.
Y'all.
And make sure to follow us on social channels. And we will see you next time.